We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including some NHL trade talk around a variety of teams, including the Edmonton Oilers, the Calgary Flames, as well as the Nashville Predators and the Buffalo Sabres. Plus, we have news from the NHL waiver wire, some big injury updates as well. We had some big scares last night for a few teams, including guys like Brock Boeser and Seth Jarvis. We got some big updates there. Plus, we have a signing in Washington and some big news on some contract extensions, especially for guys like Cale Makar and Artemi Panarin. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here tonight. Of course, it's Halloween, so for all those who partake and celebrate, hope you have a fun and safe Halloween evening. Of course, it's also Game 6 of the World Series. If you're watching, pay attention and enjoying that. Certainly hope you enjoy the game tonight. It could be the end of that season. We could have either a victory in celebration for the Blue Jays, or the Dodgers will force Game 7 tomorrow night and have an even more epic finish possibly. So either way, it should be a fun evening depending on what you're all into. But here's your rundown of hockey news and rumors for the day. Starting with the waiver wire, we had the Montreal Canadiens had defenseman William Trudeau on waivers. He, in fact, cleared. No big surprise. Has been reassigned to the minor leagues to the Laval Rocket. A bunch of other injury notes and roster moves. The Boston Bruins lost Elias Lindholm due to injury. He is requiring an MRI. We'll be getting further updates on that situation, but the head coach said that he's going to be out for at least a few weeks, depending on the MRI. We could be looking at something a little bit different, but that was the early estimate on Lindholm. So that's obviously a big loss for the Boston Bruins. Obviously, he's been having an up and down season. They started hot, then they had a really bad stretch, and have had a few better games lately. But obviously, losing a top six forward is not going to help matters. We also saw some other, significant, or what appeared to be significant injuries last night, and a couple teams may have dodged a bullet. But the Canucks had Brock Boeser get hurt in the first. I'm pretty sure it was the first minute, if I remember correctly, of their game last night. He got hit with some friendly fire shot from the point. I believe it was defenseman Pettersson, not Elias the center, but he got it. It looked like right around the knee area. He left the game, didn't return, but team is now saying that he may not be out, he may not miss time, and could be ready for their next game. So that's promising news. Same goes for Seth Jarvis in Carolina. He blocked a shot last night as well, and it got him right on the ankle. It did not look good. And then comments from Rod Brindamore after the game really got fans concerned. When he was asked for an update, he didn't really have anything firm or definitive, but he said that it didn't look good. But now, this morning, Seth Jarvis was out skating. Now, he didn't do a full skate. He didn't even have full equipment on. But the fact that it was an ankle concern and he was out skating around, fooling around with pucks and kind of messing around, I think that they're probably okay. If he does have anything, it's obviously not too serious. Now the Carolina Hurricanes are saying that he's not been ruled out for their next game, and he could also play this weekend as well. If he does miss any time, it won't be much. So both teams really dodged a major bullet in that case. Sean Couturier, captain of the Flyers, also left their last night's game, and due to injury didn't return. We really haven't gotten much clarity from the Flyers on that one, so we don't really know what we're dealing with, but it's expected to miss time, but we don't really know a lot about what's going on with Couturier, so we'll have to wait for further updates. Another situation as well with Toronto. Steven Lorentz is out. He's going to be considered day-to-day, but it is possible that Chris Tanev and or William Nylander could return this weekend. Scott Laughton's still not ready. Still going to be a little bit longer before Laughton returns. Actually, another quick update as well on the Canes. Kochetkov has been sent down to the American Hockey League on a conditioning stint, so he looks like he's almost ready to return. The Sabres today recalled Isaac Rosen. The Islanders officially called up Cal Ritchie, who will play in their next game as well. So obviously he could have played last night, but had his flight delayed because of the weather in the Northeast. Didn't make it in time with the Barzell scratch, but he will get an opportunity to get in on this weekend, which is good. And the Sharks enforcer, you could call him, Ryan Reeves, is injured. He's going to miss some time, and it could be significant. We're waiting for further updates from the Sharks on that one. The Washington Capitals announced a signing here today. Young player Ivan Miroshnichenko gets a 2-year contract extension, $925K per season on the AAV. Of course, Miroshnichenko is currently in the minor leagues. Hasn't really secured himself a full-time spot in the NHL here as of yet, but has been progressing. Obviously, a player they want to keep around and see as being part of the future. So we'll see how things work out for him. Now, a bunch of rumor updates, a lot of which come from the Elliotte Friedman podcast, 32 Thoughts this morning. One thing that he talked about, a couple of them were contract extensions. We'll start with those. Obviously, talking about the Avalanche a bit with the Natchez extension and how the Cale Makar contract that's going to come next offseason or next summer probably if things go well, very well could be getting close to that 20% label. He says that Makar's contract, if there's one out there that it could maybe rival Kirill Kaprizov, that it just might be Makar. Of course, you got to remember Quinn Hughes is going to be extension eligible as well, and it would kick in the same time if he doesn't extend and go somewhere else. Well, that maybe his next contract is not done at the same time, but they will certainly impact each other, being two of the top young dynamic defensemen in the game. But Makar, yeah, imagine if the Avalanche, I'm not sure how they're going to work that out. From a cap perspective, that would be tough. I mean, you don't want to lose Cale Makar. You have to pay him the big money. But just strictly from a perspective of managing the whole team's cap situation, that will be tricky. But Elliotte estimates that Makar could be up around that $17 million mark in the Kaprizov territory. Now, another player he touched on was Rangers veteran forward Artemi Panarin, who I know a lot of fans haven't been super thrilled with so far this year. Of course, I'm not too happy with a lot of the team, to be honest, although they did have a big comeback win against the Oilers last night. We're going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers a little bit later, too. But, man, the Rangers, as much as the Rangers came back to win that game, I kind of felt like as much as they won, the Oilers kind of blew it. I didn't get to see the whole game, but I did get to see the third period and the overtime. And, man, the Oilers are, talented offensively, but they are still extremely sloppy. Evan Bouchard, man, did Evan Bouchard ever have a bad night, directly causing at least two of the goals, and really he was a dash three. You could almost say that he was one of the main reasons why they lost. And I know in Bouchard's case, Knobloch, the head coach, has made it pretty clear that they have high standards and they're kind of holding everybody accountable. But are they really? Evan Bouchard, especially in a night where they're just 11-7, should have been sitting on the end of that bench. I know that offensively he's talented, but his brain is just not in it right now. I'm not sure what's going on with him. Like, he's always been a bit of a turnover machine. He's never been super great defensively, but he's gotten worse. He should be getting better, not worse. Like, it doesn't make any sense after signing for the big money. He's taking a major step back. And they need him to have a reset and get better in a hurry. So, yeah, the Rangers did get the win last night, but I think they can thank Evan Bouchard really more than just about anybody else in that game last night. So we'll see if the Rangers can keep it up or not, but it could be a rallying point for them to get things turned around. Only time will tell. But when it comes to Panarin, of course, we've long talked about his situation in the Big Apple. And, of course, we know that word was out that the Rangers tried to go to him about an extension in the offseason, see if he'd be interested in doing a shorter extension, bit of a team-friendly discount, so they could, obviously make the team better, stronger around him and the other players that are going to be there. And he had zero interest in that. Been a lot of talk about his future. The Rangers have a slow start. Could he be moved? And that's still a possibility as well. But Friedman did make it known on his podcast today, from what he's heard, Artemi Panarin is absolutely looking for another home run contract. He might be one of the few players that actually makes it to free agency next summer. Of course, with Natchez signing, that group of star players that could have been free agents is certainly dwindling down. There's not a lot of big names that could be on the free agent frenzy. It might not be much of a frenzy at all unless you're talking about mid to low ranked players. But in the case of Panarin, he's looking for definitely longer term and as much money as possible. He's all about the money, according to Friedman. He wants to cash in one more time. So to me, it just worth the way the team is trending, and considering his age, what he's going to want for a contract, and that the team hasn't been doing well, I just don't think it really makes any sense for the Rangers to sign Panarin to that deal. So if he's insistent on the long-term big money, I think he's going to have to go somewhere else. I'm not sure who he's going to end up landing with, but that just tells me that the odds of him being traded are probably better. But again, he has control over that. So if he doesn't really want to leave, he won't have to. And it could be in a predicament where maybe he does walk as a free agent and maybe they can't move him. It's hard to say, but I would be shocked at this point later in the year if there are not conversations with him about that. So we'll have to wait and see where things go with Panarin. But according to Friedman, there's no chance he's taking a discount to stay with the Rangers. Now, a bunch of notes as well in the trade rumor category. We'll start with updates here from RG.org and Jimmy Murphy talking about the situation between the Buffalo Sabres and young goaltender Devin Levi, who we've seen reports on here from recent days. Started with Sabres media confirming that he has requested a trade and he would like to have an opportunity to play more at the NHL level and would like to be dealt. Now, of course, according to this new article on RG.org, that even before Devin Levi requested the trade in the offseason, teams were already starting to kind of sniff around and try to have conversations with the Sabres around his availability. Clearly, especially after free agency, when they signed Alex Lyon and then they had Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, obviously raised some eyebrows, looking at like obviously Levi's not in their NHL plans this year, and then they go and get Colton Ellis off waivers, and the way they talked about this guy, like they've been, obviously they're quite fond of him as a goaltender. We're hoping to be able to get a chance to get him to their team. Like, okay, plus you have the other two guys at the NHL. Levi's kind of been left, in the lurch here with really no clear path. So I don't blame him for wanting to have a chance to play. Like, I understand his brief sample size at the NHL hasn't gone the greatest, but he's put in his time in the minors and done exceptionally well. And he followed that up from obviously with a great college career before that. So he deserves another opportunity. I think he's put in enough time. And, is he going to be a star goaltender in the NHL? Maybe not. Maybe he can turn into one. We know goaltenders quite often are the late bloomers amongst most positions. But yeah, the Flyers and Utah, the Mammoth, were the two teams that RG.org is reporting had previously inquired about him before he officially asked about a trade. So we'll see. I mean, to some degree, you could argue that they both kind of make sense. Clearly, some question marks in both organizations about long-term goaltending strategy. But there's lots of other teams too. I mentioned there's at least 5 or 6 teams that come to mind about opportunities where he could get some games in this year and have a better path to the NHL. So again, we'll see if the Flyers or Utah decide to follow that up now that there's word out that he would like to move on. Obviously, some other updates around the NHL. We'll start with the Oilers here. There's obviously going to be a pretty good chance that we see at least one, if not multiple, Oilers cost-cutting moves here. Not so much like right away, but sometime in the next probably week to 10 days. We know Zach Hyman's not too far away from returning. He's about a week away. So they obviously don't have to make the move yet. They're going to want to wait and make these moves pretty close to him being activated and ready to go. But, guys like Ty Emberson, Matthias Janmark are some of the names that we're watching. Guys like Isaac Howard and or Matt Savoy could be sent to the minors if they need to. They don't need waivers, so they can go down. If they really need the space, they can always, kind of rejig things later and try to bring them back up. But that's an easy move to free up a little bit of room. And then so I'm going to get Curtis Lazar's another name as watch. Between Lazar, Emberson, and Janmark are the most likely names that they're going to try to move, if not one or two of those guys, that make some space to bring Zach Hyman back. So don't be shocked if that happens. Of course, we know the Oilers' goaltending situation hasn't been great this year. Stan Bowman had promised to address it. He hasn't. Connor Ingram had a disappointing second start in the minors after the Oilers acquired him as well. So again, he's not ready to be brought up. He doesn't appear like, he's not the solution right now. They'd like to see him get a good stretch of games in where they would feel comfortable. That hasn't happened. So again, they're another team I would even consider looking to Levi about as well. So the Oilers definitely have some changes coming in the short term, but a lot of that will be dependent on when Hyman exactly is ready to be activated, and that's expected to be, like I said, about a week to 10 days away. So they're bound to make some sort of moves in that short term, barring, of course, that they don't run into another serious injury or something that could change things here yet again. Dave Pagnotta is reporting and some other names in the Calgary Flames to keep an eye on. Of course, we know they haven't had a great start to the season, and we probably will see at least a few moves within that team. It doesn't sound like the Calgary Flames ownership has any desire to really strip things down completely. I think they're quite content to try to do like a similar retool that we kind of seen with the Washington Capitals, for example, where you still have some veteran guys around, but you kind of try to slowly tweak things so that you're bringing in some youth and you're getting a better mix of, veterans and young players, but you're not stripping your rate down and getting those super high picks for a few years like a lot of teams have done. And we've heard about some of the names. We know Rasmus Andersson quite likely will be moved this year, but again, that's a unique situation, expiring contract, probably not coming back. Doesn't really probably make sense for them to sign him to an 8-year deal, which is reportedly what he wants, which is understandable. So again, that unique situation. We've heard all the Kadri chatter about where he could go, where it would make sense. But again, we don't know that Kadri wants to leave. We don't know that the Flames absolutely want to do that. But are they going to get calls, especially when they're struggling, when Kadri's a very unique, interesting player that a lot of teams would love to have? Sure, I guarantee they will. Whether or not he gets moved, it's hard to say, but we know there's teams out there that definitely have interest. But another name that Pagnotta brought up that's going to get a lot of attention as well is Blake Coleman. Now, Blake Coleman is a player that obviously had great success, especially look at when he went to Tampa. He was a huge part of that third line when they were winning Stanley Cup championships back, 3, 4, 5 years ago. That third line that they had was absolutely incredible. And guys like Coleman, Yanni Gourde, they were a huge part of killing penalties and just being like a shutdown line and providing some offense too. Like, Coleman's got that experience. Could be a great middle six, second, third line kind of player. He's got some offensive flair, but he also has, the ability to have that role like he had in Tampa before. So, a team that was mentioned would be New Jersey. Of course, he has history there. A reunion with the Devils, if they keep up strong play, would be an option, but there will be others as well. But Blake Coleman's going to be a name that a lot of teams are going to look to as they want to get better, deeper on the wings. Had some guys that are two-way players, good defensively, but can chip in offensively. He would be a great addition. So again, no guarantee that they move him, but Pagnotta feels that Calgary would probably be more willing to move Coleman than they would Kadri. So definitely something worth noting and paying attention to here as time goes on. Now, of course, the Nashville Predators are definitely going to be a team to watch as we go down the stretch here. Jeff Merrick made an interesting comment today, and I've said this before too. I kind of been thinking it for a while with the Predators having a slow start to the year after how things went last year. If they feel like they need to make a coaching change with Andrew Brunette, could Barry Trotz end up behind the bench? I mean, he's a long-time coach, and he has the bulk of his history as coach in Nashville, which is why he wanted to go back there, all the history with that franchise. So, could Trotz appoint himself as head coach and go back down? That wouldn't be shocking, especially if it was like on an interim basis. I mean, Merrick also noted that, Brian Poyle, of course, would be, connected to David Poyle, is an assistant GM there and has been there for a long time. He could certainly either take over as GM or he could just kind of take on more responsibility to kind of take the workload off of Barry Trotz a little bit while he's working behind the bench. Or Barry could try to do two roles, but either way, I can see Trotz ending up behind the bench. If they make a change, say halfway through the year, it would give him a better feel for maybe the players themselves. It might help him do his job upstairs a little bit better. But so far, the Trotz era as a GM has certainly been a failure. And I think that's fair to say. And I hate to say that about a guy that I have a lot of respect for. And for the most part, has had a good career. But it has not gone well. And that's just facts. The team has not performed. All the moves that looked good have not been working out at all. So we'll see. I mean, Friedman made mention on his podcast today as well about Ryan O'Reilly. And again, another player that there's going to be a lot of interest in. Again, not a guarantee they trade him, even though he doesn't have trade protection in his contract. Barry Trotz had made it known before that he's got a lot of respect for O'Reilly and that he wouldn't move him without consulting and talking with him to make sure he was happy in the situation he was going to. Friedman made mention again, which we had heard about before, and he confirms it, that the Leafs did try to get him back last year after a miserable season in Nashville, and that O'Reilly wasn't really crazy about going back, so they didn't make it happen. Obviously, again, mentions the Devils as a team that might be interested. We know that they are likely a team, if they keep things going here, that they might be wanting to add, another really good veteran forward, whether it be a guy like O'Reilly or a guy like Coleman, makes a lot of sense. And there's going to be a lot of other teams too. I kind of reference because we've heard a lot about the Ottawa Senators and Steve Staios being one of the GMs. We keep hearing Ottawa, Utah, Carolina, and their GMs being the ones that appear to be the most active with just conversations in general, and that they might be the teams more likely to pull off a big move. But again, with Ottawa, we haven't really heard about what that big move could be. But I will say this, just in case they do have interest, O'Reilly was a player that they were in talks with before. When the Senators pulled off that trade with the Sabres last year, when they got Dylan Cousins for Josh Norris, before they settled on Cousins and made that move, there was a lot of talks between the Senators and the Predators for a Josh Norris, Ryan O'Reilly type of trade. So that could be, I mean, they don't need help at center right now. The Senators don't. They are pretty deep down the middle. But to make the team better in the short term, some of those guys that play center could go to the wing. Like they've already experimented with it with Brady Tkachuk's injury between Timmy Stützle and Dylan Cousins, both at times playing wing instead of center. So, I mean, they have Stützle, they got Cousins, they have Ridley Gregg, they got Shane Pinto. There's more than enough. Like they don't all play center now. And they could easily move somebody else to the wing and put O'Reilly there. So, I mean, it's still, he's a really good forward, really good two-way forward with good offensive upside. It would still make them a better team. Like, he would make any team better, I think. So, again, I'm not saying that they're going to revisit those conversations. I don't know what it would take to get a deal done. I just know that they did have conversations about acquiring him before. I'm not sure how O'Reilly felt about it. We know he's from Ontario, but didn't want to go back to the Leafs after one stint there before. That's all we do know. Whether or not, like I said, they revisit that, I don't know. Just that it happened before, and sometimes when you hear things that were in conversation before, sometimes they revisit and make it happen. But again, lots of teams are going to want this guy, not just Ottawa, not just New Jersey. There's going to be more. And I don't know for sure that he moves, but it sure sounds like the Predators between O'Reilly and Stamkos are going to have a lot of conversations to be had and a lot of decisions to be made. And I think a lot of the moves that we saw Trotz do are going to have to be undone and go a different route. So we'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.